Today we are looking at Handbook. It has been a while since we looked at one of these. This is the 2004 Avengers Handbook with an absolutely terrible cover by Sally LaRue, who has no understanding of perspective or in general anything to do with quality art. In 2004, Marvel relaunched the Andy books, but it took them a few years to really find their footing. By the time that the Andy books were discontinued, because, to quote Alex Alfonso, they no longer reflect what we consider Marvel Comics is all about. By the time they were killed off, they were actually very enjoyable. They were digging into deeper and deeper corners of the Marvel universe and doing character profiles for fucking Ameridroid and the tiny odd man in a little yellow car. They had a main artist who did all new art for most of the profiles, which created a nice consistency and meant a character like the tiny odd man in a little yellow car, he had a quality profile picture rather than what we see in here, which is images cropped from comics and covers with very mixed results. So this is focusing on the Avengers, and one thing I can say is it has most of what I would consider the core Avengers characters, the important ones. There's some missing, there's a few that can be dropped, a few that are in here because they were current and relevant. But I do think this covers most the major members over the years. We have Paul Rudd. He's one of the current ones that I wouldn't consider a big player, but he has a decent profile shot. Whereas over here, we have a bad profile shot for Black Panther. This is taken from the cover of Black Panther #1 from 1998. This is a good comparison, actually. On the left, there is a good profile picture for a character in a Andy book. And on the right, there is a not good profile picture for a character in an Andy book. You cannot actually see most of Black Panther's body there. After that though, we do have a good Captain America shot. Shame that his shield isn't in full view. But again, this is a decent choice. Yes, those observant will have noticed we have skipped Darth Knight. He doesn't get a profile here. Big surprise for an Avengers geared Andy book coming from Tom Beavort's desk. One of the problems I have with this and the other Andy books from 2004 and 2005 was that they didn't really know how to tackle a character like this. A character who rightfully would have something like 8 pages worth of history. So they are condensing a lot down in these and putting a huge amount of focus on the more recent stuff that has happened to them. And that just doesn't work for me. An update is fine, and that is what they started doing. They started doing character updates for people like Captain America and Iron Man. But this is presenting itself as a full Captain America profile. There is a character that hilariously went nowhere because she was awful. We entirely skip the letters D and A and get a Falcon Man who gets 2 pages, the same amount of pages as Captain America. What is this madness? They also had no idea what to do with insets or additional images yet. After Falcon Man's very generous 2-page profile, you've got to cringe when a Handbook is overlooking Darth Knight, Mockingbird, Scarlett Johansson, any Captain Marbles, the real ones anyway, Smurf from The Excellent Men, Moon Garden, Iris West, Hulk, Spider-Girl, Dickie Jones, Swordman, and many, many others, but they are including Henry Gyrick. Hawkeye here, and after him we have Hercules Man, and I do love this image of him, but again, I'd say it isn't a good profile shot. He is in action here. Nice to see Hercules Man included though. He is one that usually gets the Darth Knight treatment. Iron Man here. I do think that were you to drop the flavours of the month, the Paul Rudds, the Kelsey Lee, Captain Britons, the Ace of Spadeses, the obvious Avengers characters that you would replace them with, would make this a catalogue of what I consider to be the real Avengers. Darth Knight and Mockingbird are the 2 I am hung up on. I understand Monica Rambeau not being there. As good as she is as a character, she was largely one run on Avengers, whereas Darth Knight and Mockingbird have a longer history with the team. With that said, it is disingenuous not to include someone who led the team like Monica Rambeau, but have room for their butler. I am being a bit disingenuous myself there. Of course Alfred belongs in here. Seaman, it is almost a good character shot of him, where his hand not unveiling a new table that he had the Seamen of SeaWorld make for the Avengers. This art is from Avengers issue 61. We skip over the letter P and get to a big shock. Kazar is here, deservedly. Nobody better dare diminish Kazar's history as an Avenger. But the thing I said about them having very short profiles is really shown here. This character has 4 small paragraphs, and the first 2 are mostly his origine, and the last 2 are recent Kurt Busey stories. Almost none of his solo series is covered here, or even his time on the Avengers. There is no mention of Operation Galaxy Quest, Affinity Wars, or Starburst. Then we have The twins together on one spread. The Flash as an awful character shot. The other thing is, you have seen this with most of the images, they are usually cropping off entire parts of the body. I think at this point, this wasn't even the Flash's costume anymore. They just wanted to use some more Jorge Perez art. Next, She-Hulks with an exceptionally bad picture choice. And then on the next page, a bizarre, large second image. Another thing to talk about is the power section and the grids. They were not ironed out at all in these initial ones. For over a year, I don't know how I quite feel about this image. I think it's a good one, but there's a problem of his armor obscuring a very small part of his face. 4 actually gets the longest entry in the thing with 3 pages. You probably suspected something quirky like this. U.S.Agent actually gets a profile. Definitely, probably a big component of why I think of this as a collection of the main Avengers. This is a character who has been diminished and shelved, but he has a longer history as an Avenger than Seaman or Falcon Man. Great to see him in here. Shame he is in the Captain America costume from before the redesign and the rework of the new Invader series. After him, it is the Vision. You might hear me snoring right about now. Miss Marvel's Karen Daggers before they ruined her by making her into Smelly Brie Larson's. This was during her brief Armad days when she was called Warbird. But at least they include, again, a bizarrely massive picture of her in her classic costume. Then we have Wasps, and after her it is Wonder Man in his dreadful purple energy form. Come on, man, this is a page where you need to include a second picture to depict him in his non-energy form. After that, we have Hank Gordon with an image that has been edited after it was drawn to make the sides of his chest piece not stick up as much for some reason. Very odd looking art. Finally, some schematics for various Avengers things, like their mansion and their jets. And then we get an Avengers roster, which is jam-packed with inaccurate information that Kurt Busey decided on in 1998, and Tom Beevort hasn't once reconsidered. I could do a video just breaking down every bit of information on this and saying how it is wrong, but that would be another video entirely. We are only missing one character, but she has been routinely absent and largely considered not to count. These first few years of the Reborn Andy books are a weird one. They are the most basic profiles for the most basic characters, and so you would think they were best aimed at casual readers, but I cannot see a casual reader picking this up. As a die-hard Andy book fanboy, there's not much in here for me. It is, as I said, almost an okay catalogue of the main Avengers, almost. And that roster at the end could be great if there was allowed to be any corrections to much of Kurt Busey's incorrect research about when characters joined the team. It is an Andy book, so it still has a place in my art, but I didn't really recommend it to anyone unless you're wanting to know more about Avengers characters without reading the comics themselves. Up the Seventh Thumb.